Hello, hello, hi, young guy. How are you? We're live. How are you?
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Phill. How Webb? How Jodi? We're still waiting for two more young guys to show up. Thank you, Webb, to remind me to click get on because last week we got kicked out because StreamYard only wait for 10 minutes. It's like if you have a scheduled meeting, they wait only
I
10 minutes.
probably shouldn't be trying to watch it on
Hi.
How you
YouTube
doing?
right now because it'll
Hi.
use up my bandwidth,
Good.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, probably it may create some kind of a feedback. I don't know. I don't. Hi, Joy.
Hello, Ching.
Right. Yeah.
Hi.
I closed that window. So.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So we have one more person supposed to join us. So hopefully he does not forget. I doubt he will forget. So let's just start. So thank you so much, Phill, Jodi, Joy, Weber. I really appreciate we're here. I was just saying earlier, like this is the fifth time I'm hosting Young and Han live. The original idea was because we were locked down, we can't see each other, we have no really people to people meetings. So I miss my young gang friends, and so I organized meeting people this way. And it's not like we don't really have like a strong agenda of solving any problems or doing this and that. We just hang out, we try to remember what we did, and we try to say hello to each other, and perhaps we can comfort each other in whatever way we can. So that's the purpose of original thought. So I hope we can comfort each other in whatever way we can. Uh-oh. We have a echo now. Are we good?
It sounds fine to me.
Okay, I just heard some echo of my own. Okay, hi Weber. How are you? So anyway, so the first thing usually we do is that we introduce ourselves in turn, and just talk about like how you became young again, or how do you know each other, or how do you know me, or have we met yet or not. So let's make it brief, like less than 2 minutes each. So usually we'll just start with a guest on my left side. So how can we start with Phill?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Phill. I live in Bergen County, New Jersey, so just miles from the epicenter of the pandemic in our state. I became Yang Gang. So my story, hopefully I can keep this under 2 minutes. I actually was attending an event where Andrew was a guest in October of 2018. And I had only really heard that he was the $1,000 a month guy. And nobody had really heard of him. He was at this event. I just sort of decided, $1,000 a month, that just sounds like a gimmick. I'm not even going to introduce myself to him. So 4 months later, a friend of mine's talking to me, and he asks me what I think of Andrew Yang. I was like, that it just sounds like a gimmick. And then he says, hey, listen to this Joe Rogan podcast. And so I listened, and from there I was hooked. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I could have met this guy. But I've not been politically active in my past. A lot of it, I think, because I've always kind of viewed politicians as, just playing a game, and just not, I just never really felt affinity to really sort of think about it too much. I mean, not think about it, but I just couldn't find sort of the chemistry to sort of get interested in the politicians that were out there. But once I heard Andrew, in that 2-hour interview, it just hooked, and he solidified so many things that I had been thinking about, that had been floating in my head over the years, and from there it was just I went full in. I maxed out on my donations. I met Webster when he made the call for New Jersey delegates. He still continues to be a great inspiration to me. And Ching, I think we've met before. You look really familiar. But I don't quite recall, because in this whole journey we've met so many people.
Yeah.
But anyways, that hopefully that was under 2 minutes, but that's my,
thank you. Thank you for being here, Phill. Thank you. Jodi.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jodi Sarda. I'm from Mercer County, New Jersey. And like I said, I met Ching in New York City for the first time. And then we were in Iowa, and then we were in New Hampshire at the same time, but not at the same place. Let's see. I've been a long-time activist in politics early on. I used to live in Arizona, and I was really active in the Democratic Party there until I got burned over and over and over again by them, and then I left. So I've been green now for the last 12 years, actually. And let's see. I was big time supported Bernie last time. Before that, Dennis Kucinich in 08 and 04. And I heard about Andrew Yang for the first time, actually just passing mention of him on Jimmy Dore show. And Rob Lacone just said, oh, they're like, oh yeah, who's running? And he's like, oh, and this guy, Andrew Yang, is running on UBI. And I was like, what? So I started looking into that and going through every single policy on his website, because I'm a total policy wonk. So that, to me, I'm like, what are his policies? I've got my checklist here. And then I started, my first kind of introduction to him live was I watched his some small town halls that he was doing in New Hampshire. And eventually I brought myself to watch a Joe Rogan or to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast and watch that. And yeah, that was really good, and just got totally into it. Like you, Phill, maxed out donations. I went to Iowa twice. I went to New Hampshire twice to canvass. I went to rallies in New York City and in Philadelphia, and fundraiser in Manhattan. And I don't know, I probably saw Andrew, I don't know how many times throughout this process, in Iowa and New Hampshire. And I was in Keene, New Hampshire, actually. So the night before, at 11 o'clock at night before the New Hampshire primary, he was there at Keene State. So I saw him there. And then the next morning he came to our office. So that was pretty cool. I had Evelyn Yang call me on the road in between Iowa and New Hampshire. I was on my way. She was calling people who had been volunteering in New Hampshire and thanked me. That was really cool. But yeah, I've been really all in. I was just on a Humanity Forward hang on Wednesday. That was fun. And Andrew came on to each little breakout room, which was really cool. But I've been a long-time peace activist, social justice activist, Medicare for All activist, and I was a big-time Bernie supporter last time, and this time I just didn't take me very long at all to go, oh no, this is the real deal here. So
Thank you, Jodi. Hi, Shane, welcome.
Hi, sorry I'm late. My laptop died.
Oh, that helps.
My dog ate my homework
today myself. Yeah, I fall asleep without sleeping. Thank you so much. We're introducing ourselves, sort of this way. From Phill to Jodi, and the next one supposed to be Weber. How about Shane? Now you just cut the line. So let's just talk. Shane, talk about how you become a young gun, and do you know anybody here and stuff like that. Just an intro. Let's do a short intro, please.
Sure. I recognize some names, but I only know you, Ching.
Okay.
My intro. Let's see. I grew up in New York City. I'm in New York City now, in Queens. I lived in Rhode Island for a while, high school and college. I got into Yang Gang because, I heard about him. I looked into him a little bit, and then I didn't get all the way in. And then months later, I just started to get more sick of the divisive politics. Got in for the not left, not right forward reasons. And I don't know, I was a libertarian before. So yeah, all right. I voted Democrat, Republican, Libertarian. I voted every which way you can in the presidential. And Andrew gives me the hope that we can actually fix the two-party system from within, which I hadn't believed for a long time. I hadn't there hasn't been a candidate like that for a long time. So that's the short version. I got into door knocking in New Hampshire from Facebook, from New York City, the Yang Gang Facebook group. Somebody, I think Matt Clark posted, looking for people the weekend before the primary, and I offered up my car, even though I didn't ask my wife. I just went for it. I had the time of my life, and it reinforced everything in me about the campaign, and it reinforced that we could actually do this. So, fingers crossed.
Right.
We will.
Thank you. Weber. Weber, sorry, Joy, we squeezed you to the last. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, Webster, your turn.
Hey, yeah. So I'm Webster Lewin. I go by Webb, and I met Andrew Yang in, I guess it was late February at a dinner in New Jersey. I heard about him a few months, or maybe a few weeks before that. I have a friend I'm connected to on Facebook named Richard Titus, who had posted a picture with him together with Andrew Yang. And I was like, wait a second, this guy's actually running for president and he's with Richard Titus. And I just had to know more about this guy. So I just started doing research on him. And of course I saw the Joe Rogan podcast, and it kind of blew my mind. I was like, wait a second, this guy is so far out of the box when it comes to politics. And I've been involved with politics for quite a while. I'm a digital strategist by trade. So I've done a lot of work on the agency side and, for big brands like P&G and Microsoft. But since 2014, I've done a lot of work in politics. So I led a congressional campaign in New Jersey in 2014, on the digital communications side, and I've worked with a lot of local candidates in New Jersey. Some of the work I did during the 2018 election was recognized by, it was a finalist in the Reed Awards for the congressional work that I did in New Jersey's 11th district in support of Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. But these days I'm kind of an activist, and I have my own consultancy called WLO Global. And so I get involved with campaigns. And when I saw what Andrew was doing, which really cut to the core challenge of our society right now, is how do we address the things like income inequality and the fact that so few people have really been able to realize a middle class lifestyle, and that the number of people dropping out of the middle class is increasing. And just, my family's from the Midwest originally. I was born in New York City, but all my relatives live back in Kansas City and St. Joseph, Missouri, in towns that are really struggling now because of the loss of jobs and just a loss of hope in many cases that those jobs are ever going to come back. And what I saw with Andrew with his book, The War on Normal People, and with his policies, he's really addressing those systemic issues that no other politician would touch. And that's why I got so passionately involved with him. So I became, locally involved and joined like the Yang Gang here in New Jersey. In fact, Joy and Jodi and Phill were all part of our group. We were all delegates. We were all going to be delegates and get Andrew Yang on the ballot in New Jersey. And we were so excited about that. And we were so disappointed after New Hampshire when he dropped out, because I think we all thought we were going to get to go to the convention. But now there's not even going to be a convention. So
I feel a little better about that now.
But I was also involved a lot on the digital side. So I'm part of a team. We're still somewhat active called Humanity First. We have a group called the Yang Gang Swarm, and we trained and managed about 400 social media editors to manage about 180 Facebook pages around the country that supported Andrew Yang. So that was all the state pages and territories, and Democrats abroad, and Hispanics for Yang, and a lot of city pages as well. So in all the primary states, we had pages for Des Moines, Iowa, and Keene, New Hampshire, and like all the cities. We were in the process of building them all out when the campaign ended. But I think a lot of us are looking for, on that group, we're looking for how we can support humanity forward. There's a little bit of a discussion whether these pages should remain as Andrew Yang pages or they should convert over to local grassroots humanity forward pages. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But I'm still very excited to push Andrew Yang's ideas forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. You trained me.
Yeah, Ching was the admin for the New York for Andrew Yang page, and I'm sort of like the main point for the New Jersey for Andrew Yang page. So
Yeah. Thank you, Weber. Joy.
Hi everyone. It's so good to see Ching and Jodi and Webb, and to meet Phill and Shane, and to be connected to the Yang Gang at large. I went to college with Andrew, so he's my friend from Brown, from college. I met him my first week on campus, so we were teenagers. So when I met Andrew, he looked exactly like he does on that T-shirt. And then, so fast forward, I found out he was running for president. I was like 2017 or 2018. So I've been supporting Andrew for over 2 years, but it wasn't at all because I knew him or that I had the connection through Brown. I started supporting him because when I started checking out his campaign, I was completely open-minded and towards like what was to become a vast field of candidates, and like anyone else, I was evaluating and shopping for the person to get behind. And for me, it just took a couple videos of watching Andrew on the trail and speaking to his earliest audiences. There was a Chicago speech I watched, and then Iowa. And by the end of the second stump speech, I was fairly convinced. I mean, I guess I would summarize how Andrew resonated for me in 3 main ways. One is he came across instantly, for me at least, as a patriot and a humanitarian. And for me, those two really speak to me very deeply. Secondly, Andrew is clearly a problem solver, a critical thinker. He's about excellence in both ideas and action, and not your standard political mode of playing rhetorical games. So that really set him apart from all the politicians I have followed and supported in the past wholeheartedly. And then the third thing was his integrity and vision. And I have some background because I knew him when we were in school, and so I knew about his basic decency. But I mean, as he ran for president, I became so proud of him in terms of how clearly he is a person of great integrity and vision, which is so sorely lacking amongst our public figures. So that's sort of in a nutshell my Andrew story. In terms of Yang Gang, I mean, I first saw but did not meet Ching at the UBI march in the Bronx. And she didn't notice me, but I certainly noticed her. She was just, I mean, I said to myself, I have to meet this person. I didn't get the chance to introduce myself that day because I saw how busy Ching was, and I didn't want to bother her. She was busy, taking video and filming and documenting this historical moment of the first really, truly international march for universal basic income. But then I met Ching in person. I introduced myself to Ching as well as Jodi at the New York City fundraiser.
Yeah, that was fun.
November 24th.
There you go. Great night. The crowd was fantastic. Andrew was fantastic, and the entertainers that night MC Jin, Ronnie Chang, yeah, a bunch of people. And so, yeah, then I met.
Your outfit's awesome. I think. What is this dress outfit? It's so beautiful. Anyway.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway.
A traditional Chinese jacket, I think I wore that night. And then I met Webb through, becoming slated as a delegate in New Jersey to get Andrew on the ballot. So that was amazing. And then I guess what else can I say? Oh, so I then teamed up with Ching in New Hampshire when we were canvassing. I had awesome canvassing partners in New Hampshire, and Ching I canvassed with for a full day.
Nick.
And with Nick, the amazing Nick. We had a great time canvassing, but I had such great partners. I mean, someone mentioned Matt Clark earlier. He and his crew, working with them was unbelievable. My other partners were Bella, Dave, Robin. Yeah, it was a great time. And then, like some of you, I know Ching, I was with Ching when Andrew bowed out of the race. We were in the room when he made the announcement. So we shared that moment together as well. But, there have been so many incredible moments with meeting people who support Andrew and are just as passionate about moving this country forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, let me just tell you, I think maybe you don't know. I don't know even know how I got into it. I'll make it a little as short as I can. I was never very politically involved into any campaign before. So in last 2019, sometime in April, my girlfriend from college from Boston said, I'm coming to New York. I'm going to go to Andrew Yang's rally. Yeah, I'm going to stay in your apartment. Oh, okay, great. So she did not come for whatever reason. She's busy or something. And so I was like, I canceled my students, I teach after school sometimes. So I was like, okay, I'm going anyway. Yeah. So I went to the May 14th rally in Washington Square Park. That's my first exposure about Andrew Yang movement. I went. I really had no idea what was I getting into it. I just went just because I was curious and I want to shoot video. So I went really early. It was raining and it was very cold, and so but gradually a lot of people came. So it was very powerful to see people. There's so many people, young people, colored people, not very many Chinese people, all different race people there. So, and of course, I first time saw Andrew Yang speaking, and he's very convincing. He's very articulated. But I still did not know who he was much, So that's my first dosage of Andrew Yang. And from then on, I was invited by more young gang to go to filming more events. Mostly just being invited. Say, why don't you come? So I went filming it. So gradually, after about, I would say, 3 or 4 more events, I start to film myself. Nobody needs to ask me to go anywhere anymore. So I would just always look at in the middle of the week, I look at the New York Yangan Facebook group. That's a great group. They always post things, they're very on top of things, Fulton and many others. So anyway, so I started to go. I probably have went to, 30, 40 Andrew Yang events altogether. I went to Iowa for 2 weeks and went to New Hampshire for 3 weeks, and all the other events in between. I went and I met you guys. I met Jodi at the Iowa. I was like, we just arrived right from there.
Yeah, we just ran into each other in the airport.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, and then I met Joy. So many events, like she just said, and then I met Weber. Weber actually came to my house for a party. I hosted a young gang party in my house. He was so sweet. He came with his wife. Right, Weber? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's not. But Ching, I think you're using the Chinese pronunciation of my name, which is Weibo.
Weibo.
Weibo. Right.
Weber.
Yeah, it's just Webb. Just Webb.
Okay. Web. Okay. Web. Like
Yeah.
World Wide Web. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
World Wide Web.
Web.
So
World Wide Web. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and Webb was very generous, and he's he coached me, and like, you should put this video on now. He's always like
Yeah.
whipping us around, But anyway, in a good way. So yeah,
I mean, we were so hungry for content across the network of all of our Facebook pages that we just wanted anything that we could. And video is such a great kind of social media, currency. So the more videos, the better.
yeah. So altogether, I made like 110 short videos, and I met Shin at the last party, right? Shin, we met in New York City in the party, like a young game party, right? Do you remember?
Yes.
You don't remember?
My daughter
started
knocking on the door as soon as you came to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it was New York. I feel like I think I saw you. Were you in New Hampshire before the primary the weekend before as well?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
I think I saw you floating around.
Yeah.
But then we talked at Sullivan's. Yeah.
Yeah. We also parade, and we also in the very cold weather outside of the college, we protest, screaming bloody murder, and so for Andrew Yang. So it was a lot of fun. But anyway, so what so we all contributed in our way to the movement, and I am so moved by you, Youngan. So part of the reason I keep shooting is because I really, I could not really get too close to Andrew Yang, right? Picking his brain, I pick Youngan's brain, So you guys really, inspire me in many ways.
As close as we can get, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's a lot of story to tell, and my intention is to make a feature documentary with all the story I have, with all the footage, because there's a lot of footage is not out there yet. I didn't post every single thing, So yeah.
Ching, I have a question. Did you ever get to meet Andrew's campaign manager during all of that?
I actually met. I wouldn't say campaign manager. I had a special sort of invitation by, gosh, what's his name? He's a financial person. He raised money for Andrew. So we went to the headquarters in New York City, and he trained me how to use, this money collecting thing. What do you call?
Nation
what is it called? Yeah, it's this. It's this tool. You all know, like
Blue, right?
Huh?
Act Blue.
Yeah, Act Blue. Yeah, he taught me.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me and Nick. He invited me, and then Nick happened to be in my house, and I said, "Can I bring Nick along?" So he said, "Fine." So I was kind of like he treated me nice. I mean, what's his name? Gosh, I forgot his name. Nick, what's his name? Nick is in the audience right now. So because I think they have a record of people who donate a lot of money, like maxed out, or they sort of target people who wants to donate more money, and they train us how to do it. So to answer your question, I did not meet campaign manager. No, I don't have any sort of a special relationship with a campaign. I don't think so. I was actually one time. Do you remember in Iowa? There is a young guy. He came. He did a talk. It was a snow day, really cold. He was a victim of a gun shooting. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's a Harvard student. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, never mind. So he was like a speaker in the snow day, right? In a very cold in Iowa. So he came, and he did a thing in the coffee shop. So I filmed that on my own. And then the campaign actually called me and say, can they have the footage? So I gave them my footage, but I don't remember who. So to answer your question, so no, I do not have much relationship with campaign. I did everything by myself.
The campaign manager is Zach Grumman. He's still involved with Humanity Forward.
Okay.
So Zach is the guy. I got to meet him once at that dinner, and I reached out to him a bunch after. I was trying to get hired on the campaign, but he never responded. However, I did create a fictitious character. I didn't actually create it, but I was working on a project with my brother, who's a filmmaker, and one of the characters in this comedy that he's developing called The Food Dudes is Carla Stoker. So I created a fake social media profile for Carla on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube and so forth. And Carla is actually connected to Zach on LinkedIn. He accepted her LinkedIn invitation, and they're friends on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's funny.
I just thought that was funny. And during that event that you went to film, Carla is a documentary filmmaker, not in real life because she doesn't exist, but Carla wanted to be at that. She flew up from Austin. She was emailing the team constantly, and the fictitious character Carla had flown up from Austin and was telling Zach, I want to come to Washington Square. I've got my crew with me. We're here. How do we get in touch with you? We want to make sure we have a backstage, pass. We want to come to the after party and all this. And the plan was that at the last minute, Carla was going to get injured, and I was going to take her place and do all of the filming for her. So that was my scam. That was the way I was going to scam my way into the after party for that Washington Square event, which unfortunately didn't happen. The good thing is that Carla still is on the press mailing list, so I get all the emails that the press and media get about Andrew Yang's activities. So
that's pretty funny. Yeah.
So you can see Carla's YouTube channel. It's called Films by Carla.
Films by
Carla.
Carla.
Films by Carla, yeah.
Okay.
And she has a Twitter account too.
Yeah, I met Zach a few times on the trail.
Can you write it? Can you write it in the comment?
Well, if I chat here, does it show up on YouTube? I don't think it does.
No,
does it?
You can. No, you write it.
I can do it in the YouTube chat.
Write it in a private chat. Unless you want to open it.
Okay.
Unless you want to, everybody knows it. See, there's two chats here. One is a private chat among us. One is a comment. So you can write comment. Private chat is for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
Did you see it? Yeah. So people may come. So let's take a look of who is here with us. Okay. Let's say hello. We have. I'm going backwards. Okay. Hollis, HOLLIS. I am so happy seeing everyone. Keeping this movement alive is our duty. Meeting with you all restores my flame. Thank you so much. Lisa Morris is Lisa's supposed to be with us for twice, but for whatever reason, she actually has work. She has work. Somebody here actually works, not like me. So she has to work. She couldn't join us. I saw this campaign manager, Zach, in Vegas. I never realized how tall he is. I was
he's very tall.
to talk to him. Yeah. And then here is Nick. Nick is NNR 21. That's Nick, and showed us how to create. Yeah, Actor Blue. Yeah, Nick. What's his name? I forgot his name. Sorry. And then we have a Jesus here. Look. You see? He's so sweet. I don't know what's his real name. Or was his? Can you just put your real picture?
No.
So Al was with me yesterday. I had a one-on-one chat with an artist friend of mine, and then Jeff, thank you. So the person gave me and Nick a sort of personal attention. It's called Jeff Crozon. He was Andrew Yang's main money person. I don't know what the real position is called. Yeah. But anyway, so. Yeah, and then here, Nick said we're amazing. So yeah, that's great. So so
Hey,
yeah.
I got a quick question for you. Just talking about Zach, somewhere along the line, you know, after I had, you know, I have more merchandise than I care to admit, and you know, again, as I said before, I donated a bunch, and at some point, the campaign like texted me and said, "Hey, would you like to talk?" You know, or Zach would like to talk to you. And you know, this is before I had signed up as a delegate. This was, you know, I had gone to a couple of events, but it was surprising because, you know, they said, "Oh, right, Wednesday at 3:00," and then like at Wednesday at 2:45, they're like, "Zach can't come now. Can you do Friday at 5:00?" And finally, like, it got arranged, and he called me, and I was completely shocked. I just, you know, I was just some dude who, you know, bought a bunch of T-shirts and contributed money, and we spent like a good 45 minutes on the phone just talking about stuff, and I thought that was pretty amazing, that they would actually just reach out to what I figured was kind of a random, you know, supporter. And it was right around the time, I think, when the Iowa TV commercials were coming out, and I remember telling him, I was like, you know, quite honestly, I think the commercials are a little disappointing. And he was like, you know, I completely agree with that. But you know, the consultants we've hired say this is what we need to do. So that was a little bit of feedback that I had heard, that you know, kind of made me scratch my head a little bit about the campaign. But anyways, I was wondering if you guys, you know, had those kinds of interactions with the campaign after donating and participating.
I did.
So
same thing. It was supposed to be Zach, and it kind of got canceled, then rescheduled, canceled, rescheduled, and then finally Carly was the one who ended up calling me.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice to. I don't know. Personally, I don't have like a fuzzy feelings about Zach. I think it's just because so many times, you know, you know, like when after the town hall or after something, or we even went to airport to greet NGN 3:30 a.m. That was February the 4th, because February 3rd he finished Iowa. Then he flew a private jet to to Manchester airport. So we stayed up, right? Young and stayed with Jack, and we stayed up till 2:30 in the morning or 2:00 in the morning, and then 3:30, and Jack started to knock on my door. You know, I don't know if he knocked on the other, but I don't know. But he just got us all up, and then 3:30 we all jump into his van, and then he drove us to the airport in Manchester. So there we saw Andrew Yang, you know, arrive 4:00 in the morning, and then so every time Andrew Yang talks, you know, he's always like this, like paying the butt, you know, he's always like in the back, like he's like a, you know, he's like really protective, you know. It's like, okay, time to go.
Yeah, I have a story about that later.
Well, that's so funny.
I hate it. I just like, I want to see him more, you know. So anyway, but I can't really blame him though.
When I saw him the last time was at the Keene office on the morning of the New Hampshire primary.
Yeah.
And maybe some of you know Rafael Flores. He's part of the NJ Yang Gang, and he's the one who had the big bobblehead, right? That we'd always go around all the NYC events with. And so he was there with me, and he had the bobblehead, and he was going to get Andrew to sign it.
Yeah.
And so he goes up to Andrew and this is inside the campaign office, and he's like, oh man, I got to put this on. So Andrew puts the bobblehead on.
I know, that was so funny. It got tweeted out.
It was so awesome.
Oh,
and then
Zach
put it on. Yeah. So we have pictures with Zach and Andrew.
I saw the picture, right?
With the bobblehead on.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
There was definitely a sense of like they knew this was it. You could see they were all really tired, and the enthusiasm was just not quite like they really believed it anymore. You know?
Yeah. We saw Joy and I and Nick and someone else, I forgot who else. We saw Andrew at the town hall in what is that city called? When we canvassed
Oh,
In the morning, we
Right.
what is it called? Oh, Plymouth. How to say that?
Plymouth. Yes.
Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Yeah. Plymouth. Yeah.
I
And
was on stage for that event.
you were on stage, right. You're the background
Behind the
supporters, and people say he was already low energy. I don't. You feel that way? I did not know. Joy, did you feel he was low?
No, he wasn't low energy.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think so either.
Okay.
In hindsight, maybe there might have been some sort of a different kind of energy, but he wasn't low energy, maybe a little bit different. But that's in hindsight. I thought that he engaged the crowd so well that day at that town hall. Everybody in the audience was really engaged, laughing uproariously at his jokes.
Mhm.
And then he got mobbed by reporters afterwards, and he fully engaged with them, and as well as the long line of supporters who wanted, or just attendees who wanted to take a selfie with him. I mean, he was on point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he did that in 2:00, and then the next thing is like 7:30, back to Manchester, right? And then he did another one. And then 10:00 he went to King's. That's crazy.
Right.
He does like 5 events.
and that one didn't even start till like 11 o'clock at night. Honestly, it was just like, he's insane how he could just go and go and go.
Yeah.
His energy level is astonishing.
It's amazing. I was wondering, like, I sometimes joke about, with my young and also, I was so nutty. When I met Evelyn on November 24th, that's the New York City fundraiser. I even told Evelyn, I said, I decided Andrew Yang is my number 1 son, It's like, I want to take care of him. So funny. And Evelyn's like, she just like, played along. She didn't like feel embarrassed or anything. So anyway, so I would always like, whenever I get a chance, when I see Andrew, actually, for the second time I closely seeing him was in June 4th in New York in Princeton Club private fundraising, and I actually told him he should take vitamin C or stuff like that, So I don't know if he remembers. So we have this vitamin C thing, Yeah. So I would always say, hey, don't forget to take a vitamin C, So this is just have to related to like how amazing physically he didn't get really major sickness,
He did.
There was that little period of time, I think just before the first debate, where you could tell in every interview his voice was kind of going, and I just remember thinking like, oh my God, we've done all this to try to get him onto the debate stage, and then he's going to be sick. But he got better like a day or two before, and thank God. But I remember him sort of on that edge, and you could hear it in his voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My sense is that any normal human being on that sort of a grueling schedule, with that amount of energy that needs to be put out on a constant basis from minute to minute, anyone would get sick, much sicker. And so my sense is that with Andrew, it is a lot of the power of his mind. It's kind of mind over matter. Like his mental strength is so high that he's able to maintain that level of performance and thinking and engagement.
Right. I wanted to shout out loud to Diane Pagan. Thank you so much. Diane helps. I met Diane at a couple of events. She helps Jonathan Horzak for what's his name? Jonathan. His car's right in front of me. Yeah, Herzog. He's running for congressman in New York.
And Diane was one of the leaders of the UBI march that we were at.
Right. I met her first time over there. Right. Thank you, Diane. She's watching us. So, yeah. Now, can we? Can we talk about us now? Just a little switch. I wanted to know, how are you doing in this pandemic situation?
Oh, I still have one Zach / New Hampshire story I can squeeze in.
Okay.
First, maybe.
Go for it.
I wrote about it on Twitter the other day. Finally put it into words. It was kind of moving in a funny way, but I was in Nashua, and I came onto the scene pretty late. That was my first real hands-on, first time knocking on doors in my life, and we were doing. Me and my crew, we felt guilty. We almost felt, me and my little team in my car. We felt guilty not knocking on doors, but we skipped it because we wanted to go see Andrew Yang talk. We felt like we were playing hooky or something, but we had to see him talk. So we went to the Nashua Community College, I believe, and it was like he was reaching a crescendo with the crowd. The crowd was big at that point. I think it must have been at least, I don't know. I'm not going to try to guess the number. But long story short, at the end of it, it was just like somebody mentioned, Zach was playing crowd control, trying to kind of rush him out. I'm sure he had places to go. I think he had another event that evening. But it was my first time ever really like experiencing the whole thing. So I was trying to get close to him to get the picture, get a picture, shake his hand. And I saw Zach kind of moving it along, and I panicked. Like it was very, very crowded. It was like he was being mobbed, like a rock star. And I kind of panicked. And like I stuck my hand out, even though I was like 5 feet away from him, just to make sure that I could shake his hand. And I just blurted out, and he looked, and he stopped, and he gave all his attention to me, even though there were all these people around. And I did that because I thought I wasn't gonna have a chance, because Zach was kind of brushing him out, right? I'm like, oh, I'm my hand's here, I'm doing it. But he gave all his attention to me, and I just blurted out, Andrew, you should start a third party.
Who said that?
I said that.
Oh, you said that.
I don't know where it came from. I didn't plan on saying anything. He stopped, and it was very loud, and I was like, I had to like reach out. So I was still like 5-6 feet away from him, but he was still looking at me, giving me all of his attention. And I'm like nervous, and I looked at him again, and I repeated myself again. I said, I made it like a really serious moment, like, Andrew, you should start a third party. I just repeated myself, make sure he heard me, and he kind of like just listened with his eyes and like nodded, and like I just kind of walked away because I wanted everybody else to get their chance, and and then I realized how slowly he was getting out of the place. I realized how it worked only after that little conversation. He was being, Zach would be like, oh, come on, we gotta hurry up. And then he would only get like 2 feet away. And then he would stop again. It wasn't like, and then I started to think about, maybe I should clarify this. That was kind of an ambiguous statement. So I slowly worked my way over as he crept diagonally across the gym, and just as he was about to pass through the curtain and leave, I got his attention just in time. I was like, Andrew, you know what I meant, right? You know what I meant? And he stopped short. He finds me first, then stopped short, turns to me, he puts his hands on my shoulders, and he's like, I know exactly what you meant.
Good. I'm glad.
That's the right answer.
I forgot. I left out a little part. You know what I meant? If you have to, start a third party if you have to. But yeah, and then he said, I know exactly what you meant. So it was very genuine, just like every other interaction that everybody reports from Andrew. But yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's fun.
So we're gonna talk about how we feel. Whoever wants to talk doesn't matter. So I just wonder, like, how are you dealing with this lockdown? Or how many of us are working, so-called working, like making money? Oh, you're making money. Oh, thank us for dinner. So, yeah.
But I don't work anyway, so
No?
it's not
Oh.
like a big change for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So what about you, Phill?
I've been doing some consulting work, but it's been pretty much non-existent since the the quarantine and everything. So I'm lucky. I'm in a position where I can sustain myself for a little bit, but certainly.
Are you a filmmaker?
At some point in my background, I was a producer. I wasn't a director or anything, or a writer. But I am still involved. I'm on the board of directors at Asian Cinevision, which puts on the Asian American International Film Festival in New York. And as you can imagine, all the film festivals across the country are, having to scramble to sort of figure out what to do, right? It's like, do you postpone? Do you cancel? Do you do something online? Online's got all sorts of legal issues. So, the board at our organization's been meeting, online on Zoom, pretty much every week to sort of figure out, well, what do we do? What do we do? What are other festivals doing? And we think we have a path forward, but we have to have that path defined and then go to our sponsors and say, would you still want to sponsor this? And again, I think every festival is in the country is facing the same set of questions, and so it's not like this is unique to us, but it really is challenging, and we just don't know what's going to happen. So. Beyond that, I mean, one of the positives that I'm sure a lot of people have found with the lockdown is, we're getting a lot of family time together. I have two daughters. One's a senior in high school who's pretty bummed about, graduation and prom probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I have a sophomore. Apparently, the sophomores have no issues. Right? There's no AP tests. There's no graduation. So the sophomores are just like they're chilling, right?
Yeah.
But both my kids are pretty active in things like sports and stuff. And with all those canceled, we're actually having dinner together, which was great. And we haven't had that in years, more than like a couple times a month. So from that perspective, it's great. We also have some other challenges that we've had with some tragedies that we've had to deal with, actually not associated with COVID-19, but yeah, we're dealing with them, and we're spending the time supporting ourselves and our friends. So that's how it's going.
Has any one of you have people that had the virus?
Yeah.
You do? You did?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, and here's the other crazy thing. All those people who talk about, the flu is deadlier and all these kinds of things. In my entire life, I don't know anybody who, had a friend or family member or something like that, die of the flu.
Right.
But I've heard from friends, at least a half dozen, and more than half dozen, who have friends or family who have died from COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So, it's definitely striking a lot closer to home. And if we're flattening the curve, we're only halfway there, right? So,
yeah.
What happens when we stop trying? Yeah, when people stop trying
to flatten. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anybody else want to talk about Joy? How do you feel?
Well, I mean, just when this all started in the very, very early days, I was definitely an early adopter of measures like social distancing, wearing masks, gloves, disinfecting. And one of the endless interesting things that's going on is I found that in the very early stage, I was the one in all of my social contexts who triggered events being canceled, like my regular book club meeting, like my eagerly anticipated 17-course sushi dinner, even a social distancing get-together where we planned to drink wine at 6 feet apart later in the stage. So in other words, I decided to decline all these plans that everyone else was keeping, which prompted others to rethink their level of risk and decide that was, in fact, a good idea to cancel as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, it's interesting to observe everyone's different coping mechanisms and ways of reacting. And for me, there are different factors at play. One, this isn't my first virus. I was living in Beijing in 2003 during SARS.
SARS.
During SARS. In fact, I directly worked on the SARS issue. I was at the time working at the United Nations, and I was partnering with the WHO. And as it turns out, the COVID-19 situation is entirely different from SARS. But at least I was exposed to the thought process that's required for evaluating similar societal level risk, not just personal risk. And then the other main thing is I have to deal with my elderly parents and medical conditions. And then third, I'm not a germaphobe, I'm not OCD, and I'm not paranoid, but I will be damned if I don't take serious things seriously. So, when it's about survival and protecting loved ones who are vulnerable, I will definitely be kicking things into a different gear. So for me, like every day, I mean, everyone's coping in a different way, but for me, when I describe what the steps that I take to my friends, they're like, "Oh, you're doing more than we are."
Like what? Like what?
Well, like one day, I don't know how long ago it was at this point, but one day I thought to myself, every day the mail comes in the mailbox, and that same mail carrier, my friend who's been our mail carrier for ages, is touching every single person. I mean, by touching every single mailbox and then touching my mailbox, there's a risk there. And so it occurred to me, it's like, oh, maybe I should disinfect the mail and the mailbox as well. And so I started doing that. So every day I thought of another step to add another layer to add on to the suite of measures that is required to get through the day safely. It's just one example.
We've been doing that too.
It's tiring. Yeah. It's tiring just to think of a new measure, right?
Yeah.
It's tiring to think about it. It takes a lot of mental energy.
Yeah. Well, I for me, it hasn't been a huge kind of change because I've been working from home since June of last year. I work as a contractor for a big pharmaceutical company for their in-house agency, and I do content and strategy work for them. And, I also have my own company called WLO Global, and I'm trying to do work for local politicians and so forth. But so I'm used to working at home. What I'm not used to is having my two daughters and my wife around. My wife's a school teacher. She's doing all her teaching now all day long, and her administrative, things with the staff at the school. And my daughters are pretty much the same as yours. They're both in high school, Phill. In fact, I have a sophomore and a freshman, and they don't even want to go back to school. They're fine with this, except what's weird is they just seem to be working constantly. They're like up till 8 o'clock at night working, and then they take a couple hours to watch TV, and that's their day. They work and then they watch TV for 2 hours. So, it's we've kind of all gotten into this routine. I stay in my office and do my work, but we have been taking it very seriously since the very beginning. During my wife's a Chinese teacher, and she was planning the Spring Festival, Chinese New Year activities at her school for all her students and the parents. And even then, everyone was starting to realize, hey, it may not be a good idea for people to be getting together. And this was in, early February, right? So we were starting to think about like, oh, is it safe to go to places where people are gathering in early February, right? And my in-laws are in China, and we were hearing about all the things that were happening, the complete lockdowns, and people not being able to go out at all. And so we knew this was really serious, and we just didn't know if it was actually going to get here or not. And it did. I mean, it got here, and we by the end of February, we were already starting to stock up everything. So we still we have a pretty good stockpile of stuff. We of course we have to replenish with certain food and so forth, but we've got masks, we've got gloves, we've got sanitizer and all of that stuff that you need on a daily basis to cope with all this. Yeah.
Hey,
Are you in Jersey, Webb?
What? I'm in New Jersey. Yeah, Chatham.
So I got to come clean on this. So different from Joy and Webb, I went to the Barclays Center Nets game on I think it was March 3rd, and then I went to the She Believes Cup at Red Bull Stadium on March 8th.
Wow.
And that was 2 games, so I was there for something like 7 hours or whatever it was. So, so I was definitely out and about. I mean, I definitely wore masks and all that kind of stuff like that, but I was in the crowds for sure. So thankfully, I did not, or at least I don't have any symptoms, or I haven't had any symptoms, and nobody in my family has either. But yeah, I guess in hindsight, that was probably not the greatest decisions to make.
Yeah, I went to Spain in February, came back on March 12th or something. But we just bought a house there last summer, so
Where?
last fall in Spain.
Oh,
Outside of Barcelona. So
nice.
So we were there. I mean, it's a really small town. I mean, we weren't around a lot of people really, but we flew back from Spain, so we just kind of hunkered down as soon as we got back and didn't really go out or do anything. We went to the theater one night, but then after that, that was it. It still wasn't real clear, what was going on. And then, right after that, everybody was like, oh, wow, this thing's bad. So then we did all the stuff. And we had, all these plans, too, for this summer to go back this summer to our place. But now it looks like Europe's locking down for the summer. So we're not going to get to go back. And I have a senior, too, in high school. So she's kind of going through all that stuff, too.
Mm.
And, she had a big trip with some of her friends planned, to Europe and stuff this summer. And it doesn't look like any of it's going to happen now. We had a foreign exchange student last year. She was all set to come over from Germany and for spring break, and had to cancel her plans. And so that's been, and I was supposed to go visit, family in Arizona and my son and my grandkids and stuff. And all of that's out the window. So
I remember. Oh, sorry.
Not being able to go visit family and yeah.
I remember Youngin had a big hangout in New York City in a club.
Oh,
that was February 29th.
Yeah, I went to that one too.
Yeah,
She went there too. Yeah. I don't know if Joy went.
I remember that because I was in Spain. I was so home, but I was
you didn't
it out on social media.
I think that was the big sort of a party I attend. After that, gradually, just stay in. And I've been teaching. I have violin students, so even my neighbor, we're not seeing each other. We'll just do it on Zoom or on a StreamYard. So I just felt it's sort of it's a principle thing, right? Even a neighbor is one stair down, I shouldn't see them, maybe we should have a lesson in the hallway, you are in one end, I'm on the other end, just but then what about the other people? But oh yeah, by the way, this is just a little minor talking about Chinese people who are suffering much more. I remember I talked with my brother from time to time. They started to have this lockdown, I think, on January the 24th. That is the day I actually drove myself from New York City to New Hampshire. Because I remember the date is because I'm kind of very date driven, because when I make film, I like to remember which day, right. like Angie Yan's, when I met Joy, it was November 24th. But January 24th, that's a Chinese New Year's Eve.
Right.
The Chinese, is the so if you guys are available next Wednesday, okay, New York time, 10 p.m. I'm going to talk to my brother actually 1-to-1, like we're doing right now. I'm gonna pick his brain out. I'm gonna talk because it's not like he's a music producer. He can't go anywhere. His show's all canceled. So he has good story to tell, and his English is excellent. He used to live in this country, in the United States. But anyway, that's just a minor story. If you want to find out like what Chinese people do, how suffer they are, and they've been locked up for like what? I mean, we're talking about 4 months now. Yeah, 4 months. So
Wow.
But from what I hear, the restrictions have been relaxed quite a bit. So like now you can walk around outside. People are wearing masks everywhere still when they're in public. Temperature checks are universal. Anywhere you go, you're going to get your temperature checked. As soon as you show up for work, they'll check your temperature. Employers are providing masks and gloves and sanitizer at all levels. Like every office, every company is required to provide those to employees, or they can't be in business.
Yeah.
I'll just say something. Oh, is that true? Al said, I've heard China is back to lockdown. I don't know. Even if it's not lockdown, I would say it will take a long time for entertainment business to back to normal.
Oh yeah.
To produce.
It also depends on geography. It does vary, just like it would in the United States where you live. It depends on the spread and the severity.
Right. My brother.
The measures are tailored to the situation locally.
Yeah.
Right.
But the Chinese people that I know are very concerned about how bad it is here. They can't believe how bad New York and New Jersey have been impacted.
Yeah.
I've had two friends from Beijing reach out to offer to send masks from China.
Oh yeah, my sister-in-law sent us a whole package full of masks just this week.
Yeah,
that's nice.
A lot of people reaching out to us in the U.S.
Yeah. So I don't know. I work mostly at home. My situation. I used to go out, work 1 day a week teaching in college, where I have to drive 2 hours there, 3 hours back, because traffic. So for Andrew Yan, I quit my job actually. I quit teaching and thank you. I quit teaching and now there's no teaching anyway, right? So I cannot even claim unemployment.
I have heard that some people are trying to get music lessons over Zoom, right? So
that's what I'm doing. Yeah. I teach violin and viola. I will teach, here and then, my student. So what I'm trying to say is, so mostly I work at home, but it's still, you can say it doesn't affect me because I don't really have to go out every single day. But the idea of there's no restaurant you can go, you cannot see your friends, there's a restriction like this. Certain days, not every day, certain days I feel really, really stir crazy. Like I just don't know what to do with myself. I can't concentrate. Like Webb said the same thing. Yeah. So like today, I just have to drive. So I just got into the car, like 12:30 p.m. I just start to drive. I don't even know where I'm driving to.
I need to do that. Good idea.
I've been doing that like once a week, just for like half an hour. Just drive. It feels like a 2-week vacation, just to get out and drive for half an hour.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm free.
Yeah, so I drive slowly like an idiot, and because I want to see, what's going on. And then eventually I stopped and took some picture of an empty store. And then I ordered some lunch from a Chinese place. So anyway, I'm just saying, to keep clear head, to be productive, to be positive every single day is not that possible for me, you know, because I'm trying, like by talking to you guys, by hosting these talks and these conversations, you know, it actually energizes me. And you know, like yesterday I talked to a composer friend of mine. Last week I talked to a very famous violist who I study with. I actually helped her to did a video. I need to bab about it. I helped to make this video. Like the video is all people play concert at home because they cannot play the concert in the concert hall, right? They try to raise money for a food bank. So they did this and they gave me all the video and then I put it together. It was 77-minute video. That concert was aired Sunday night on April 19th. You know how much money they raised in the day? They raised 11,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing.
Well, I mean, one thing for me is consistent every single day is how much there is to be inspired by. You know, Ching, the fact that you can bring Yang Gang together like this. My friend May spends her entire day for over a month now sewing masks at home.
Wow.
Yeah, she gets up at 2:30 in the morning and starts sewing. She sews 10 to 12 hours a day. She's shipping them to nursing homes throughout New Jersey, hospitals throughout New Jersey, and then across the country. You know, her friends, including myself, say, May, you know, take a break because you really, really, really need a break. And her response is, how can I take a break? The doctors, the nurses, the frontline medical workers they're not taking a break. So how can I? I mean, but, you know, besides that, you know, I have my friends, you know, they come help out, my neighbors. And that's, you know, at a very close personal level. And then I'm inspired by the activism that continues to go on. You know, the Yang Gang's passion, activists for universal basic income, you know, fighting every day, what Andrew's doing, Andrew Yang, and then the creativity that's going on out there. It's just every day there's more and more creativity as a response to COVID-19. And I find truly inspiring.
Right. So, I have one question that's back to NGN again. Actually, 2 days ago, Ethan, I don't know if you know Ethan. Ethan,
yes, I know Ethan.
Wu, yeah,
Yes, Ethan Wu.
He's a filmmaker. He started to make this film about Yang Gang, and he followed me. I'm one of his character. He followed me to meet Fred the Felon. Do you guys know Fred Felon?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Know of him anyway.
Because Fred said, I'm going to be in New York City, 3 hours north of New York. You want to come to meet me? Because I want to meet Fred. I initiated meeting. So, and then when I wanted to meet him, I was a little scared, you know, because I don't know why I'm scared. I was. So I just wrote a little note in New York, Yang Gang, New York City, says, who wants to go with me? I'm going to see Fred tomorrow. And then Ethan said, I'm going with you. So Ethan came. I've never met Ethan before. Ethan came to my house and then we drove together. But anyway, so the point was Ethan almost finished his documentary. And he interviewed me again 2 days ago. So he had a question. He said, how do I feel about Andrew Yang had a article on Washington Post. That's a while ago, right? Several weeks ago. Yeah. I got a lot of what's the word? Backlash?
Yep.
Oh yeah, there was a big backlash.
Yeah. So how do you feel? How do you feel about this article? Do you feel he deserved the backlash? Do you feel he did something wrong, or how do you feel? Anybody?
I felt I could definitely understand the backlash. I mean, so on the two sides, right? I understand where he was coming from, and I understand the backlash. I think that the fact that it was an op-ed where theoretically he had a lot of time to think about what he was going to express. I think maybe I was a little bit disappointed that it came out as clumsily as it did. You know, because, you know, but then there's the whole outrage culture and people sort of making assumptions about what his intentions were, where I think that those people were probably a little bit extreme as well. I think he went from demonstrate your Americanness and your patriotism to people saying, oh, you're saying we have to prove ourselves. And I don't think he was saying we have to prove ourselves. I think he was saying, we should focus on solving the problems, right? Which has always been his thing. And I think his intentions were sort of misinterpreted by a lot of people who live in, have different experiences with racism and things like that in this country. And I can understand the outrage that they felt. So I know he did a follow-up interview on Next Chart. And I think that, to me, I think my life experience is probably very similar to his. My dad was a PhD professor, that kind of thing. I was born here. We live we have probably a lot of similar life experiences. So I totally get where he's coming from. My wife, on the other hand, was an immigrant who came in illegally through the Mexican border. And then she, became a citizen through one of Reagan's amnesty things in the 80s. So, I have a pretty wide range of people that I can draw upon and ask opinions of. And I can definitely see the outrage from people who have very different life experiences than Andrew and, let's say, myself. But I generally think his intentions were positive. He just needed to do a better job at expressing his perspective. That's my take on it.
I really appreciate your take, Phill, because it's balanced. I feel the same way. On the one hand, I understand the reaction and the outrage. On the other hand, I know Andrew where he's coming from, and that's not where he was coming from.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, Webb?
He doesn't speak in the coded language around all of this stuff. And so he kind of just wades in with his, I don't know, he doesn't really understand maybe sometimes how it's going to be taken.
Yeah. What do you think, Webb?
Well, I understand where Phill and Joy are coming from on this, and for me, what I thought was really interesting was the amount of backlash and how he handled it, which I thought he handled it well. I mean, I think there's one thing you can say about Andrew Yang is he was willing to admit when he's maybe a little bit have gone off base, and he's humble enough to be able to correct himself. That's one of the things I really admire about him.
Yeah.
And I thought there's an Asian American comedian, Jenny Yang, who did a really funny kind of spoof on what she did this thing, and you can see it on her Twitter page, that she was out basically waving a flag and showing off her Americanness, to show how, ridiculous it was that Asian people had to show that they were so American. I mean, I come from a pretty mixed background myself, so the idea that people have to make an effort to show how American they are is kind of ridiculous, I think.
Yeah, but with the Asian American community, there is this thing, right, about being perceived as a perpetual foreigner, right? And it comes very much in that conversation when you meet somebody and they say, "Where are you from?" And I say, "I'm from New Jersey," and they say, "Where are you really from?" Right? I mean, that is the
right.
the generic prototypical experience. And then I say, "All right, well then I'm really from Princeton," right? I try to get more specific, but
Oh, me too.
is it right?
Lawrenceville, next door.
I went to Lawrenceville for high school. Anyways, so I mean that's what you deal with, right? It's like there is this perpetual. You're not really American. You're from somewhere else, and I think that's the negative reaction. Like, why do I have to prove that I'm more American than anybody else?
I think one of the things that is different about how Andrew comes at problems is that he sees the bigger picture, where he sees the ridiculousness of certain things. Although he did suffer from how he worded this particular op-ed. But he also understands the reality of things. And sometimes that reality, I think, is very hard for people to listen to or accept. He puts things out he describes situations and problems in a way that is the actual pragmatic, real way of looking at it, not some idealized way. And the idealized way would be just saying, no racism is bad. But his point is like, that's not enough. You can't defend yourself when you're being discriminated against by saying don't be racist, or racist, or telling someone racism is bad or ridiculous. I mean, for him, he's searching for solutions, and there are no instant or easy solutions. And I think in terms of like the performative aspect of performing one's Americanness, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but I think it is actually very, very real to the Asian American lived experience. I mean, we do from day one, I mean, since growing up in the United States, be confronted with this othering that people do to, people of color, where, you're not seen immediately as an American just because of the way you look. So you do have to cope with that with coping mechanisms and adjustments, and some of them are performative in nature. It becomes actually very ingrained and internalized from a young age.
When I read his article, after sort of seeing a lot of people had a problem with it, and then I went back to read it, and I really, maybe it's politically incorrect to say, but I really did not find anything wrong with his article. That's just how I feel.
Ching, I think that's partly because you know much more about Andrew than the average reader. And the average, even if you're an Asian American, you probably don't know that much about Andrew. And so you look at it at face value, and at face value, it was worded in a way that was as awkward or clumsy or misleading. I
gotta say, when I read the wear red, white, and blue, I cringed. I totally cringed. I was like, wait, this is not the way that you want to go with this, right?
Because I'm wearing red, white, and blue, but I have Yang, the Chinese Yang on my shirt. So.
Yeah, it's very tricky language when you start throwing around symbols like that.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was very patriotic, though. I thought he was.
It is patriotic.
I think
it is patriotic, but it's like, why do we have to do that? Like, I don't think I look good in red, white, and blue, so why do I have to do that? Right?
Well, to me, actually, Andrew Yang represents the most patriotic. Like, he's essentially the model for what a patriot is. Mm-hmm. To me, I mean, he's up there with Martin Luther King. I really do. I think the two of them have more in common than any two people in American history.
Yeah.
No. Let me say something. I may piss off a lot of people. Okay, I'm gonna say that anyway. It's okay. I'm locked down. I'm crazy right now. I'm telling you. There's a huge Chinese community around me. Okay, lots of Chinese people. My friends, my best friend, they're Chinese people. But I'm telling you, maybe only 1 out of 100 person is being really sort of did a lot of work for Andrew Yang or for campaign. I see that as being patriotic. Okay, so in other words, I feel people around me, not so many people, are being patriotic. Sorry, they want their kids to go to best college, best pre-college, best high school. They want their kids to have the best SAT score. That's what they care more about American politics or patriotic or whatever, or campaign. So so I feel that it's not a bad idea to say, hey, you being more patriotic, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how I.
So here's something that I've thought about quite a bit. I think if you go back decades, if you ask somebody what it was to be American, the answer was pretty much apple pie, baseball, Chevrolet, that whole thing, right? There were a lot of common experiences that people would have that you could identify as being American, right? I mean, even stupid little things like every Thursday night, everybody watches Cheers, right? And then everybody's got these common experiences. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, we don't have those common experiences because we've got, 500 channels of cable, 1 million websites out there for people to have their echo chambers and silos. And so I think if you ask people what it is to be American today, I think, you ask 100 people across the country, you're going to get 100 different answers. And what my answer is probably going to be different from somebody from Nebraska's, is going to be different from somebody from Texas. And I think that we can't, what it is to be patriotic becomes different for everybody. And that's one of the big reasons why we have so much divide, because nobody can agree on what it is to be American. Some people say it's American to be, middle class, white, baseball, manufacturing, this, that, and the other. And some other people say it's, being multi-ethnic, social justice, this kind of thing. Everybody's got a different view. So, where we need to go. And what I really loved about Andrew was he was always just focused on, let's do everything together. Let's not worry about the partisanship. Let's not worry about the left and the right. Let's go forward and let's figure out what it is that we all have in common. Mm-hmm. And then we'll call that American, and then we'll figure that out. A lot of these problems will sort of align themselves and solve themselves.
Great.
I would love to share. Can I just share one?
Can I just say one thing before? We have about 4 minutes. We wanted to end around 5:30. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to share something that my friend Andrew, another Andrew, wrote. Andrew Chen, not Andrew Yang, because we were lamenting together the angry backlash from some certain Asian Americans against Andrew Yang and his op-ed. And my other friend Andrew, he wrote, he's an 82-year-old Chinese American, and one of my oldest friends. And he said, we need to have a wider, more inclusive view for all Asians, and a more inclusive view for all approaches against the common evil of discriminatory practices and presenting any group of humans as the enemy. And I think that really aligns with what Phill was saying, and also what Andrew was trying to do with his op-ed, which is to unite. I mean, that was like the thrust of what he was trying to do, was to unite. He didn't get the effect he wanted, but that is where he was coming from. The importance of uniting now, when we are perhaps have not been more divided, because at the state of the larger society is so divided now. And then here now we have Trump and others using the strategy also of dividing and conquering. You have to fight that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. So, shall we do a one phrase conclusion? Starting Jodi, please.
Okay. Oh,
just conclude our meeting. Everybody gets to say one thing. Okay, one phrase.
Yeah. Well, I love staying connected with the Yang Gang. I think this was the most amazing part of the whole campaign and experience. I still get friend requests from people on Facebook, and I have like 150 friends in common with them. It's like, I don't even know who you are in the same state. And I think that's amazing. And that's the best part of this, was all the love that the Yang Gang has.
Thank you. Joy.
Similarly, same sentiment. I will echo there. I just feel so blessed and happy and proud to have been a part of and continue to be part of this community and this movement. I love all the new friends I've made through Andrew Yang's campaign.
Thank you. Shane, your microphone.
Sorry, I wasted 3 of my seconds. All right, I'll just say I didn't get to speak at all. I don't have time here, but about working. I'm a stay-at-home dad, but my daughter was gonna have her second day of daycare, and then the cases doubled overnight, and I pulled her out. So I've been working with the campaign of Badrun Khan in District 14. So that's how I've been keeping busy, and that's fun. And I'll let you guys finish. But if anybody wants to help out, go over to her website. Trying to beat AOC.
Okay, Phill.
Humanity first. It's not left. It's not right. It's forward. Still believe it.
Yeah, me too.
We all should live it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Webb.
Yeah, so I mean, I echo everyone's comments about how wonderful it's been to be part of this group, and to feel like the belonging to the Yang Gang has really opened up my horizons and exposed me to so many people, wonderful people, that we all have this passion in common that we want to make the world better. And we know that there are ways to do that. There's problems that can be solved. And I'm just excited for the next chapter. I hope that Humanity Forward really kicks into gear soon, and we can really kind of pull that together and make some big changes in this country.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Webb. I have a requirement. I didn't really understand. Hi, Diane. Would you please share the website for our 48-hour push for?
Yeah, that's trending on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
Is Congress passed UBI? So yeah,
Congress people.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know where is the website, which website she's talking about. Share the website.
And the movement has letters that you can sign, petitions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
get on Twitter and start tweeting Congress pass UBI hashtag.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. We really need to. My Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill is more moderate, so I've been involved with a lot of her events recently. And every time I ask a question about UBI and what's her opinion of it.
Good for you.
Thank you guys so much. And again, this is our 5th time. I really feel, every time I talk to Yang Gang, I feel energized. I'm happy, and I want us to continue talk like that. Okay, so people who are watching right now, if you want to be on a panel just like this, just let me know and message me on Facebook, and then we can always schedule. So this is more or less a New Jersey and New York Yang Gang meeting, but it could be any mixed possibility. Oh, there's a little kid. So you guys, really inspire me, like I said earlier, and so keep up the good work, and please be healthy, and please help each other, and so we'll see you until next time.
Thank you, Ching.
Thanks, Ching. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Phill. Thank you, Ching. Thank you, Jodi. Thank you, Jodi. Thank you, Webb. Okay, I'm gonna get out of this. Okay, all right, end the broadcast. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.
You too. Bye.